Hello and welcome back to Lightworker Training. My name is Tatiana and the topic of today's video is holding space. So this is the second in the series of Foundations of Healing. So Foundations of Healing is chapter 2, and before that we had chapter 1, which are the principles of light work, and before that we had some intro information, some myth busting, and just clearing the air about a couple things related to what light work even is. So if you haven't checked out those videos, check them out. And I'm just going to continue building on top of this foundational knowledge that we're laying down right here. And the piece for today is all about holding space. So we hear this term, don't we? Holding space. We're holding space for this. What does it even mean to hold space? So this might be a little bit different than what you've heard before. It might be something you've already heard before. Like I've said in past videos, I am not going to be sharing any kind of earth-shattering news with you that nobody has ever said or heard before. I'm just sharing from my own perspective, my own point of view, in my own language that maybe you can resonate with, but I don't claim any ownership over these discoveries. I just claim ownership of my interpretation and how I relay that information. And hopefully it's in a way that's helpful. But, you know, like I say, if it doesn't resonate for you, no big deal. I'm totally cool. So, getting back to holding space. So holding space, we're creating a container for healing, right? We're talking about healing. Lightworker training is a practical guide to healing with energy and consciousness. So we're creating a container for healing. So when you think about that, you might think about like the office space that you might use for doing your work, or some kind of physical container like that. What I would invite you to tune into is the container of your individual energy field. So these other containers are helpful too, but if you don't have this container dialed in, good luck with that other stuff, right? So that's why I'm laying this kind of thing out first, so that you can get this foundation of healing, right? So we talked about in the last video how love is the healer. So you want to attune your individual field of energy to the vibration and the frequency of love. So that is a choice you can make at any moment. You can choose to align yourself with love. And we've been talking about this all along the way, and I'm gonna guess we're gonna keep talking about it because it really all comes down to this. And so basically in these teachings, I'm presenting I want to say 101 ways to attune yourself to love or come back to the truth of yourself. So there's lots of ways that we can describe this, but it's all pointing toward the same thing. So your individual energy field is the container that the healing happens in. And you might be thinking, well, what about if I'm working with somebody else? It's still the container that you want to focus on. So yeah, you can clear the space, you can clear energy for somebody else, but really this field, your field of energy, needs to be in a certain vibration. And then other things, other people can come into resonance with that. Okay, so I talked about this in I think I've talked about this in several videos, but I know I talked about this in the last one. So it's important to know that this is a choice that we all make. We get to choose what we want to align ourselves with, what we want to resonate with. So if we're not being mindful, it's very easy for us to align or start to resonate with the collective field. So the collective field is the aggregate of all of these individual fields and what they're choosing to resonate with or align with. So unless you're, even if you are brand new to planet Earth, you probably already noticed that the collective field vibration is very, very low. It is very base level consciousness, very materialistic, very survival kind of energy. So there's nothing wrong with surviving. But is that the most important thing we need to focus on as infinite immortal beings? Is that the highest vibration we can achieve in this lifetime, to merely be consumed with the survival of the physical vessel? I don't think so. No offense to this little body. I love this little sweet animal body. However, I know that this is just a sweet container for my consciousness in this lifetime. I don't identify as it. I don't have attachment to it, or at least I'm working very consciously and mindfully to release those attachments, right? I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm totally enlightened. This is what I'm choosing, okay? So this is what we all get to choose. We all get to choose how we're going to align. Are we going to align with fear and the low vibration of the collective? Or are we going to exit the matrix and work on cultivating what we would like to experience within our own individual field? So within the individual field, we have total choice of what we would like to run, the energy we would like to run, the consciousness we would like to be in our own individual field, regardless of what's happening. And so this is the key to holding space, regardless of what is happening, making that choice to align with what is healing. So it's tricky, right? Easier said than done, right? Because in the moment when maybe some old trauma gets triggered or something like this energy comes up and it feels really overwhelming. And it can be very challenging to make the conscious choice to shift to the vibration that is actually going to heal, not just that situation, but all situations. Even if you know that, it can be so tricky. Why is it so tricky? Why is there such a pull into that low vibrational energy? So this is a huge topic that I'm going to be talking about over the course of the next several videos, I'm sure. But I will talk about it a little bit right now because this is very important to know, very important element of holding space. So why it gets tricky is we have entertained and still consciously or unconsciously choose to entertain parasites and parasitic thought forms. So these things that want to harvest our energy, whether it's some kind of entity or even just a belief system, even the belief system will want to pull our energy into it. It starts to kind of take on a life of its own, kind of creepy. But did you know we can create these thought forms when we invest our, not just our mental energy, but our emotional energy into something? Especially the more people that do it, or the more repetitions, it starts to build this artificial kind of entity or construct. And then that thing wants to continue, but it doesn't have a soul. It does, same with the parasite, doesn't have a soul. And so it needs to pull energy from something that does have a soul. So there's that. And okay, delete that. I'm gonna do a little solution thing after I name a couple examples here. So parasites and parasitic thought forms are one of the reasons why it gets tricky. We're like, oh, no big deal, I'll just shift over here. But then there's a parasitic entity or thought form in there that's, so these thoughts might not even be your thoughts, right? Might be the thoughts of the parasite. But if you're hooked in, you will tend to think that that's your thought. And then it can be very hard to shift out of it. So there's that. And then the other thing is our trauma-based conditioning. So it could be old trauma energy stuck in the body, could be trapped emotions, things that got suppressed because there wasn't a safe space to process. And so it just kind of gets packed away here, packed away there until there's time to process it. The body is very wise about this stuff. I would invite you to, I'm just going to plant this little seed, a little invitation for you to consider that everything the body does is absolutely perfect and correct, regardless of how you interpret its expressions. Okay. I'm just going to leave that one there. And so we could have old trauma, trapped emotions in the body, imprinting in the body, could be psychological imprinting. It could be belief systems and layers and layers and layers of programs that were written. This is the conditioning, right? The brainwashing, the layers and layers of programming based on trauma, based on things that aren't conducive for staying in a vibration of love. Now, traumatic things can happen and they can be processed, and then there won't be this kind of stuff. But in this realm, what tends to happen is we get layers and layers of trauma, and there's never really a safe enough space to process it. There's not a lot of knowledge in the collective about how to process it. It's all about, just kind of stuff it and keep going, because you got to go work your slave job, right? So those are two big ones, two main ones, and that's parasites, parasitic thought forms, and trauma-based conditioning. So this can be why it's so hard to make that shift when you're feeling the energy of that emotional energy, the old trauma energy, whatever's getting triggered, because it'll tend to put you into a state of a flashback and collapse into the energy. So I have a lot to say about that. but I'm not going to get into it in depth in this video. This could be several videos where I'm talking about exactly what is happening with PTSD, CPTSD, trauma-based conditioning, mind control stuff, parasites. This is like a huge chunk of what's going on, and in the invisible realms, and there's starting to be people talking about trauma and having trauma-informed practices and things like that, which is fantastic. And hopefully what I'm sharing about some of these more a weird occulted kind of energies, woo-woo stuff, can help to give a spiritual perspective to the work. Because let's face it, there's a spiritual perspective to reality. So if you're missing that, wow, are you ever missing out? Because those higher levels of consciousness are how we actually can shift anything. I've talked about this before. When you focus on just the symptom level and addressing this symptom and then this symptom and this symptom, very materialistic, kind of allopathic point of view or perspective on healing. But when you're looking at the symptom level, you could be putting out fires over here, and then before you know it, you turn around, there's another fire over here. Why? Because you never got to the root cause. So that's why the spiritual perspective is so important. And that, by the way, is why it has been occulted. Occulted means what? Hidden. Occulted means hidden. That is all it means. Okay, so, oh yeah, so getting back to my point, these two main reasons why it's so hard to shift to the space, right? Your space, your energy field, you hold that space, you hold the vibration, the frequency that is the healer, right? Which is love. We talked about this. So why it's so hard to hold that space is because there's this suck, this parasitic suck trying to pull you back into the energy of the trauma. And hey, you know what? When that energy gets triggered and you feel it in your body, you really do feel like it's happening now, but it's not happening now. That's some stuff from the past. And the parasite is going to try to keep you hooked into the past and keep you identified with that wounded aspect of self. Why? Because that's how it gets to feed off of you and feed off of the wounded parts of self. Wounded parts of self need us to kick some ass so that they can actually heal this stuff and stop getting beaten up on by the parasites. Okay, so just know this. I'm going to talk about this a lot more, but just know this. Parasites are going to try to suck you into the collapse, right? This is the energy of fear, toxic shame, the trauma, the just like, oh, just trying to brace against the impact, right? Rather than standing up and being like, not today, Satan, not today. So that is the energy that can really help you in these situations. You have to muster that fire and that fierce love. So love isn't just like, oh no, that's cool, parasite. Like you could just feed off of me and just kick my inner child to the curb. And like, my inner child's disgusting anyway because she's so wounded. And that's not love. That's not love. Love is like, hello, don't you kick that child. I'll kick you. Trying to have a little bit less swearing in my videos. But I don't think I've dropped any F-bombs yet today. So trying to have a little bit more of a all ages flavor here. Okay, so yes, it's that energy of like, not today. No, I am going to fight, because what would a loving parent do? What would a loving partner do? What would a loving friend do if you saw somebody getting beat up on, some parasitic entity just, would you just say, nothing I could do about it? You know what? Sometimes there is nothing we can do about it. But when it comes to our own inner work, we are the only ones who can do anything about it. So just know this. When that energy comes up, the energy of something needing a healing. Because what are we holding space for? We're holding space for healing. So if we're already in the vibration of love, we don't need a healing. But when we fall out of it, we do need a healing. So what do we need to do? We need to fight our way back to love. Or, just breathe your way back to love, sing your way back to love, dance your way back to love. But oftentimes when you're in that energy of being hooked into, it feels like a fight. So I'm going to just let you know that right now, that if it's felt hard for you, if it's felt challenging for you, if it's felt impossible, that's because the not self has such a strong grip on each and every one of us in this system. It's a parasitic system. So until we can completely extricate ourselves, it's going to feel like a spiritual battlefield at times. So you need to know this so you can cultivate this light warrior energy that says, no, get that out of my space. Boom, give them a holy, what is this? I want to say it's a dragon fist or something. Give him a holy tiger claw, tiger swipe. It's my really weak kung fu metaphors. But that's what it feels like, honestly, when you're in that state and you're trying to get back to the space of love. It can feel very, very challenging. So I'm going to be talking a lot about this energy of toxic shame, not healthy. Well, I will talk about healthy shame too, so that you can know there's two things going on there. And I'm going to get really into breaking down these techniques and exactly how we do this. But for now, I just want to let you know that no matter how shitty you feel, you make that fierce choice of like, F this. I am not putting up with this bullshit anymore. Okay, I had to do it. I had to swear. I'm going to love myself anyway. I'm going to fight for myself because I love myself. I'm going to fight to get back to the vibration of love. And I'm going to light up this whole energy field with the light and the love and the power of creation. So be it. Okay. So that's the vibe. I bet you thought holding space was just going to be all, rainbows and unicorns, and it can be. And it can be super shanty, it can be super chill, it can be super blissful. And then other times, and especially, in the times that we find ourselves living in, it's getting intensified. So we get to remember that love isn't just about being a doormat. Love is about kicking some demon ass from time to time. And from time to time, I mean, maybe every day, maybe a little bit of ass kicking every day. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope this has been helpful. This video on holding space, maybe a little bit different than what even I thought I was going to talk about. I'm going to come back in the next video and talk a little bit more about the mindfulness piece, the awareness, having the awareness that we've been sucked into this collapsed energy. Because, like I said, it's so common that we actually need to bring some focus and attention and awareness to the fact that it's even happening, because it's been so normalized and we've been trained to be desensitized. Okay, so we're gonna undo all that, blow it up next time on Lightworker Training. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.